Now, many expats from around the world are drawn to this beautiful, vibrant, and culturally rich island nation. It's a stunning destination and highly sought after, even by Americans who wouldn't consider retiring anywhere else. It has its first world standards, modernized, neo-lit, futuristic cities, and its quiet, serene countrysides. It's a mixed, distinct culture, very different from Western norms, and deeply rooted cultural traditions. It could potentially be filled with a lifetime of excitement, making it easy to see why many would like to make it their new homes and choose Japan as a retirement destination. Lots of great things, and I love this country too, but you clicked on this vlog to maybe see a different perspective of Japan, a part of your research you would do for any country you're potentially thinking of living in. Now, who wouldn't want to hear about some of the bad points that last talked about that you might not have heard of before, or maybe you have but brushed it aside but wanted to take another look. So although this vlog is focused on the bad, it isn't about hate, and you might even think that is part of any country on this planet. Some cons might even look like pros, but you be the judge and the points coming. Anyways, let's jump into the 15 best reasons not to retire to Japan, from bad to the worst, starting now. Number 15. Taking off your shoes. Now, do you love your shoes? I certainly do, and so does Japan. But the problem is, you love them to the point you have to hide away your shoes right at the entrance when entering anywhere. You stick them in the corner or throw them in a dark box of some kind. I mean, it totally makes sense because it cuts out the dirt in the house, keeps your place clean. It's just a real pain when you have to take that time to take your shoes off, on and off, on and off, and on and off. It isn't just the home either. You'll need to take your shoes off at the temples, museums, and restaurants. You'll even find people staring at you until you find your shoes, put them on, and tie them up with your own technique like a good little kid, all while you're being watched. The temple floors are cold as well, especially during the winter season where it's freezing. I hope you have those thick socks. Number 14. Japanese bugs. It's kind of rare to see bugs in Tokyo, but if you do spot a bug in Japan, especially on the countryside, you'll find that they are super big and straight out of a movie. There's even these insect museums that actually show what they look like. Just be thankful you have all your fingers. You might experience a few unpleasant meetings with some while living as an expat in Japan. By the way, cockroaches in Japan do fly. Number 13. The image of anime. I'm sure many of you love anime. I'm a big fan too, but a lot of people actually believe after watching a 21 to 22 minute program, depending on how long the commercials are, or maybe binge watching them for a couple of hours a day, believe what they see and the images over media, especially in anime and manga, is what Japan is all about. Japan is definitely not made of ink and anime frames. Just imagine that world for a second. You're taking a little too much of something, I would say. So never believe what you see on TV as the truth, although I believe in everything. Number 12. The food. Now, Japanese food is awesome. In the majority of the time, there's no real complaints. But when it comes to finding fresh fruits and veggies, especially if you're on a budget, you won't find it or you'll be super broke getting something. Those days you were eating fruits back home with all your meals is over, especially if you live in Tokyo where the strawberries are worshipped as special little treats. And although ramen, curry, and yakitori are affordable, you won't find the same thing for salad chains. Now, I'm not saying that there are no fruits and vegetables at all, just saying you'll be paying a lot for them. Also, seafood and rice is not for everyone, especially if you're not used to it, and it could make you unhappy in the longer term. Now, there are selections of fast food, but it's sometimes weird and not the same, and it's more expensive compared to some of the local foods available. Number 11. Lineups and reservations required. Man, you'll see this everywhere, almost like a ritual of some kind, with people actually loving being part of that action lineup atmosphere. Want dinner? Wait in line. Want a sale? Wait in line. Want something done at a government office? Wait in line. Now, you might think it's the same as back home, and it is, but multiply that by 200. Try getting in line for an attraction in a 3-hour lineup, and although the lines are super long, the lines are still respected in Japan. If you dare cut in line, it's a huge katana no-no. And make sure your phone is charged and look for fast passes where you'll need to pay an arm and a leg for. Let's not forget about the reservations you'll need to make too. The best restaurants and ryokans are booked months in advance, and the top spots to see cherry blossoms in spring are reserved with tarps early in the morning. Even tickets to amusement parks are bought in advance. You'll always need to plan ahead, and it's always going to be a race to get some awesome experiences where you don't have much time. Number 10. looks matter, and the gambatte spirit. Now this could be said for any country you go to, but this is especially true in Japan. You'll never find people walking around in sweatpants wearing flip-flops to go shopping. Athletic wear like tracksuits are for the gyms and for actual athletic use, or you'll be laughed at. You have to be presentable every time you step out of the house, but some foreigners don't care much about this point and dress how they like. There's actually something called gaijin immunity as well, but it only goes so far. As a foreigner though, people will stare and you'll stick out like a nail. There's even a saying in Japanese that says, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Especially if you're Caucasian, you'll be equivalent to a walking neon sign in Japan, flashing all the time. At first it might be amusing, but for most it just gets exhausting fast because there are so many cases where you have to continue looking like that neon sign. And you'll always need to know where the plug is to make sure you always have that power to show your lights. Maybe not so much in Tokyo, but there definitely will be in the countryside of Japan where you might actually be the first foreigner ever seen by a local. But if you really want that attention, go to the countryside. If you're a neon sign, they will come. There's also the gambatte spirit, which means good luck or keep going, and it's a positive thing. But what happens when your health is in jeopardy from working punishing overtime, or it's just not the time and place to mention it? That same positive you can do attitude can be very frustrating in situations where you might want to look out for your mental health more smartly. This is why karaoke and beer is so addictive and good, unless you're a bad singer, and it's always waiting to help you out to let off some steam. Usually people after work go straight to the bars. I wonder why. Number 9, always having cash. With Japan being one of the most technologically advanced societies in the world, most people conduct business in cash, although credit card use has become only more widespread only recently, I guess. But while many of the larger stores do accept credit, many smaller shops and restaurants still don't take them. The vast majority of mom-and-pop restaurants are cash only, as is nearly every single temple, and the further out of the city you go, the less it's accepted. So just remember, in Japan, cards suck, cash is good. It's almost a given to have cash with you all the time. And even if you do use cards and you're not from Japan, watch those international transaction fees rack up. You'll need to go hunt for cards that give you those slight international dividend benefits. Now, carrying around paper cash isn't so heavy. It'll make you feel richer, but the coins start adding weight to your coin purse as well, where you'll constantly be digging around when you pay for something. You might even find something else in there as well. But with the convenience stores on a lot of the blocks, it might not be an issue for most. They do have ATMs ready for withdrawal. Oh, and Bitcoin might become a thing in the future as well. After all, it's actually legal in Japan. Number 8. Making friends and all-you-can-eat and drink events. 飲み放題, 食べ放題. Now, making friends is tough, even back home, especially if you're not working and you come over with your partner who does have a job. It's just making friends with the Japanese outside of work that could be tricky. Japanese people generally are also more reserved, and you may find it especially hard to break the ice in the beginning. But luckily, there are fitness clubs, communities where you can meet people from all over the world, so joining a sport or club would definitely have you meeting some like-minded individuals, and many Japanese are willing to test out their English with you as well. There's couch surfing events too, where you meet Japanese people who are interested in meeting foreigners as well. But if you do happen to have a job, you'll make friends with some of your colleagues pretty easily. But some might not like those all-you-can-eat and drink events at your workplace. There are these huge gatherings with seniors to juniors meeting at a local izakaya. Now, it's supposed to be an informal, friendly dinner, but the acting comes out to impress one another, your seniors, your coworkers, all while fighting the drunkenness where you lose control on how you speak properly. You're basically kind of forced to adjust to the group mentality that some are fine with, but if you're from North America, it might seem annoying where individualism is emphasized. Number 7. Cost of living is very high. Now, this is an obvious point, but Japan is expensive. It's an island nation, so everything gets imported, and the Japanese also demand the highest quality items and service as well. And with this high quality comes those high costs. You'll find that the domestic flights, Shinkansen, and taxis are all overpriced. No wonder bicycles are so popular, just saying. Also, having a car that includes your license, annual checks, highway fees, and parking spaces are too expensive as well. Living anywhere near a city center in Japan, rent will be much higher as well. The cost of living in Japan has been one of the highest in the world, and although the country has become more affordable in recent years, it's still not the cheapest place to call home. Living spaces in Japan are much smaller as well than in many other parts of the world, even if it's a little more affordable. And due to the living cost, if you don't have a well-paying job, you might not be able to afford a comfortable place in city center and have to commute to work for an hour or more. Number 6. Overcrowded in small spaces. Saying sumimasen, excuse me, will be common. Just get used to it because there are so many people, especially in Tokyo. You'll find that it's tight everywhere too. The train, the bus seats are tight. You can't move around freely without constantly bumping into people everywhere. But not only are the trains crowded, but also many areas around Tokyo that you might be interested in visiting during the weekends are always busy with tourists and locals alike. And if you don't like the crowds, living in larger cities like Tokyo might be stressful. But if you do, it's a great place depending on your perspective. Homes are also too small as well. If you like spacious accommodation, Japan might not be the best place for you. It's a country where space is limited. Houses and apartments are designed to take up as little space as possible. Over time, it might make you feel kind of cramped and claustrophobic in your own home. You might even hit your head here and there until you get used to it. Halls and stairways may be narrow and slippery as well. Now, if you decide to live in the rural areas, you might just get lucky and find a place of decent size, but most often you'll be housed in a place a good bit smaller than what you're used to. Number 5. Renting can be difficult for foreigners. Rent, specifically in Tokyo, could be one of the most expensive in the world for the size of place you get, and there's that upfront money you need to put in when you first rent as well. You have the security deposit, shikiking, which is usually equivalent to 1 or 2 months rent. The key money raking is payment made to the landlord, kind of like a gift that you'll never see again, and the agent's fees to the real estate agents as well. Apartments in Japan are typically rented through brokers as well, but many brokers don't speak English. So even if you find a perfect apartment, you may not be able to rent it without hiring a translator. A lot of landlords would rather not rent to foreigners as well, and others may be willing but require a raking or a gift of 1 or 2 months rent up front, especially if the apartment is in a popular neighborhood with high demand. Now you have to be very selective to where you move to, or it will be pretty costly, and even if you do find that perfect place, doesn't mean you'll get the place. And on top of all this, Japanese landlords and real estate agents are scared they will not be able to communicate properly with foreigners in English as well. It's just easier for them to say nope. Number 4. Logical, always official, chores complex, and English. Now that was a mouthful. You might think that these are all separate, but they do cross over, and you might also notice from here forward that reasons not to retire to Japan are getting a little bit more intense. Hold on or turn off the vlog now if you're not ready for it. First off, Japanese is a super hard language, especially the written language of hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Basic things like your tax forms and Japanese ways of saying things may frustrate you as well, and in most cases they won't correct you out of fear of being impolite. So you'll be going around in circles, sometimes making the same mistakes, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And also English, being a country that is economically and technologically one of the most advanced countries in the world, you would think that many would be speaking English, but it's actually the exact opposite, and the percentage of English speakers is quite low. Why don't you learn Japanese then, punk? You'll have issues everywhere, at hotel lobbies, with taxi drivers, train station employees, policemen, or any person on the street, except for maybe the tourist spots where many do speak English, but just common phrases. But it gives you the chance to use your awkward Japanese though. But Japanese communication is usually about indirectness with a cultural twist, never to the point, hard to understand, even if you do kinda understand the language. Now this next point is debatable, different opinions among the community for sure, but it's about critical thinking and reasoning skills of the average person in Japan. It's about the inability to question authority, mainstream thought, cultural norms, or even thinking beyond the box. But it could be seen as a good thing as well, with everyone wearing masks with no complaints, unlike other countries. And yes, this point might be applicable anywhere, but let's talk about Japan specifically. Teachers here give tests, students fail tests, students pass their classes and graduate anyway. They enter university and repeat all steps again. Always an answer for a question in the books. You'll find this to be true if you start working as well. No one will listen to your concerns if it's not in the books, giving you the same mindless response. You'll find this in restaurants trying to change an order, at customer service asking simple yet very important questions, requesting information, searching for a general explanation, or trying to solve a problem. There's also strange rules everywhere that make no real sense in modern times that I could make a whole 1-hour vlog about, actually more. Too many to mention here in this one vlog, but there are a lot of old unspoken rules or laws that seem odd for a country with such a high standard of education and livelihood. The thing is, if you're born and raised in Japan, you'll understand the rules very well. When you're a foreigner, you'll think that the Japanese have some level of telepathy with each other, especially when they look at each other. It's an unexplained telepathy, a type of group mentality where everyone just understands the rules and within an official manner, and you're left as a square within a circle. But everything in Japan is official. Even the way you say hello has to be said in a certain way. It isn't just about the simple smile at each other, sticking your nose in someone's personal life, telling your iguana stories, and having those noticeable moods. You'll always need to take yourself seriously all the time. And for chores like opening up a bank account in Japan, you have to be a resident and have proof of your residence as well as your passport and Japanese visa. And on top of all that, which is normal, yes, for any country, you also need to obtain a hand-carved hanko seal, which is a stamp used in place of a signature on official documents. Number 3. Always a foreigner and police arrests and stereotypes. Now this isn't far beyond the word racist, but not in the extremist bad way though, like in some countries. It's harder to explain in this homogeneous society where the majority aren't accustomed in seeing it in their daily lives. That could also be similarly said about Western countries as well. The Japanese will never be 100% open-minded to gaijins, outsiders. Now historically, it was an island country that was isolated with its borders closed to the outside world for most of the part for hundreds of years until the late 19th century. Almost everything can be segregated by gender, sexual orientation, nationality, or ethnicity. Even some of the bars and housing complexes have these signs that say Japanese only in bold lettering. Although they are very rare, they are still around. There will be many instances where you may feel like you're being judged in a certain way just for being a foreigner. But with that all said, keep in mind that there are many more that will treat you with respect and kindness regardless of being one. And keep note that this vlog is about the opposite opinion, not to retire to Japan. And being a foreigner in Japan, no matter how long you live in Japan, you'll never be Japanese. People will never see you as Japanese as well. You'll always feel isolated and called gaijin, meaning a outsider. But of course, being a migrant does have its advantages, but also its obstacles. You'll sometimes innocently be asked about when you'll be returning back to your home, even if Japan is your home. It's something a foreigner should know and understand before coming to Japan to avoid disappointment. It means the Japanese treat you differently. Makes sense because you will be. They'll comment on how good your Japanese is or your skills with chopsticks and other superficial comments. Now it could get annoying after a while, but you just have to get used to it fast, say thank you and smile. And to mention as well, the police in Japan actually also has the right to arrest anyone for 23 days without evidence and refuse contact with a lawyer or their family during this time. Foreigners are foreigners and will always be regarded as such, especially when it comes to a crime. You may be stared at or pointed at by kids and refuse entry to some establishments too, even ones that don't even have the Japanese-only signs. Number 2. Natural disasters. Now, Japan sits on the Ring of Fire, which is a horseshoe-shaped rift in the Pacific Ocean, where the tectonic plates touch, where frequent earthquakes occur in Japan. Quakes range from minor rumbles to building-destroying shakes, and it's scary for those that have never experienced one before. Although it's not something that happens every day, it's important to be aware that they do happen. Fire is also a threat, especially after a natural disaster in Japan, especially during an earthquake. It's something that is expected in Japan, and you'll need to get yourself familiar to some points, like not to panic and stay where you are, and stay close to strong, load-bearing doorways, an inside corner of a building, or move under a sturdy piece of furniture, not a glass one of course, and drop to the floor and cover your head, and don't exit the building until the shaking stops. But there's nothing you can do to control them, so natural disasters are just a part of life in Japan. Number 1. Work-life balance, getting a job as a foreigner. Now, this is the last of the cons and a definite con. Unfortunately, there is no work-life balance, and work hours are just very harsh. You'll find that even the government is trying to add more national holidays so that employees could have more time off. There are plenty of mental illness clinics and advertisements due to overwork and stress nowadays in Tokyo. 12 to 15-hour days are common. The business culture in Japan expects employees to treat the workplace as an extension of their family. Many even come 15 minutes early and stay 90 minutes late every day. Time and dedication is normalized, and less time or next to no time is spent with family or friends outside of work. Working over 12 hours a day is not uncommon and is often expected, even for foreigners. Funny thing is, even though the work is done, everyone just sits around till late because it's rude to stick out like a thumb if you do get up and leave earlier than everyone else. Imagine what that would do for your raise or getting promoted for your future. The work stress leads to health problems and definitely into a work-life imbalance in Japan, where many employees go straight from the office to the bar. That's why there's a large culture of after-work drinks. It's not uncommon for workers to guzzle too much nearly every night of the week. People in Japan work too hard. It's great to be able to find a job, but the work-life balance is off. And it's not weird for kids to almost never see their own fathers. It's expected if you're sick, you use a vacation day rather than a sick day. Japanese people are overworked and under social pressure and often not too relaxed. But as a foreigner, finding a job as an English teacher or any other popular language is easy. But if you're looking for a career path and you're not fluent in Japanese, you'll need other skills since most Japanese don't speak English. Companies will only hire those with decent Japanese skills. You'll need to take Japanese language tests, a minimum of at least 2 years of study to get it. But there are foreign companies like Google or Amazon, but we also know how competitive it is to get recruited into those companies. Now, Japan has both its pros and cons, just like anywhere else in the world. I know some of the points were intense and many would disagree, but like I said, you be the judge. But when you first arrive as an expat, you'll love the place. Everything is new, the food is great, the smells are different, the people are friendly, and the scenery is majestic. But this vlog was designed to see the other side, and it might be hard for some to hear of what may happen in daily life. You may yourself dig around a bit culturally, you might even start seeing some of the ugliness of some things and are left with having to make a choice. To some it might not be as ugly and ignored, but it really depends on you. Well, tell me what you think of the reasons not to retire to Japan in the comment section below. If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.